Well, welcome back to episode 7 of the Freelance Medical Writing and Editing podcast. I am your host, Phil Lindeman, and I am coming to you today from lovely Jetty's Beach, Nantucket, Massachusetts, where we are sitting at a table in the restaurant just waiting for them to throw us out of here because the place isn't open and because the world has gone crazy with COVID-19. I'm joined by the lovely and talented Josie Siqueira. Say hello to everybody, Josie.
Hello.
Who happens to be related to me by marriage. The reason that we're at the beach is because I may have told you that I'm staying with my ancient mother who last night celebrated a very advanced birthday, and a wonderful time was had by all. I will not reveal a woman's age, much less my mother's. Suffice to say that, thank heavens, she is completely in possession of her faculties, memory sharp as a knife, and we're all very grateful for that, and we had a terrific celebration. So the background noise that you're hearing may be wind, and I'm doing my best to try to shield the microphone from the wind, but I apologize for any ambient noise that might be making. There are a few things that I would like to talk about today. Of course, I very much would like to give you an update about what's happening at libertyfreelance.com. I have an article on a blog called Bishop Blog that I want to share with you that has to do with an issue related to publishing that I think is going to be compelling. And I want to tell you about, I've told you about the birthday and I've told you about Nantucket, but before I tell you anything else, I want to tell you this. So I was in Harvard Square, loitering, as is my custom. For those of you who are not familiar with Harvard Square, it is located really directly in front of the famous Harvard University and the Harvard Yard in Cambridge, Massachusetts. And Harvard Square, at least for the 40 years that I've been aware of it, has been a really kind of funky place where there's a mixture of students walking by, but there's a lot of sort of assorted Cambridge youth and elders who kind of hang out there. And there is one area which is specifically designed for the playing of chess. And here people gather to play chess with one another for money. Okay, this is a money type deal. I myself have parted with a few of my hard-earned dollars, foolishly not thinking that I could win, but I just wanted to see how long it would take me to lose. I'm grateful for the many talents that I have. One of them is not the playing of chess, but. And generally, when you go down there, there are one or two people watching, and sometimes crowded around a table. There are large groups of playing, and this is people playing, watching, and this is usually when there is a player who's quite good, or there's some kind of interesting contest going on, or something else of interest. Well, this one particular day, there was an unusually large crowd. I would say there maybe were 10 people gathered around this table. Watching a chess match. And as I become closer, I notice that there is a gentleman playing, and his opponent is a dog. Okay, this guy is playing chess with a dog. And the dog is actually playing. You know, he's picking up the pawns with his mouth, and he's moving them one step forward, and then he's taking his paw, and he's slapping the clock. And then his master, takes a piece, and he moves it, and he slaps the clock, and the dog puts his paw on his chin and he's thinking about his next move, and and this goes on for several minutes, and finally the game ends, and I approach the guy against my best judgment, and I tell him, I said, "Sir, I just have to tell you, I am fairly blown away by what I'm seeing. I mean, this is one of the more incredible things that I've seen in my life. Forget about things that I've seen in Harvard Square, and I've seen some weird stuff in Harvard Square. He said, this dog is incredible. I mean, I bet this must be the smartest dog in the world. And he leans over to me and he kind of whispers because he doesn't want the dog to hear. He says, actually, not really. I beat him almost every game. Okay, so the point of the story is this. This is the part of those who have listened to the previous 6 episodes of the podcast know that I tend to refer to this section as the no joke is made funnier by having to explain it. And I won't explain it, but I will say what the point of telling this story is. Many of us who do freelance work or who do writing, who do editing, or who are involved in any sort of pursuit, often feel fraudulent because we feel, it's called the imposter syndrome. We feel that we have no right to be doing what we're doing. It's as if we are dogs, trying to play chess. Like, what business is a dog having playing chess? This dog's pretty good, but the point is that even though he's a dog, this is a pretty darn smart dog because he's playing chess. And I think that we should think about ourselves the same way. So, for example, there is a world of people out there who are not as good at doing what you do as you are, and that is reflected by the fact that people are willing to pay you money for the services that you provide. So, for example, if you have pretty good English skills, I can guarantee you that there are 1,000, nay, 10,000-fold individuals out there, scientists, people who try to write, who don't have the English skills that you do. You may not have the best English skills in the world, but they're better than these people, right? And if that's the case, you have value that you can add to the world. You don't need to be the sort of the Queen's English expert, right? You don't need to speak very good English. You don't have to write the best in English. Of course, the more that you do these things professionally and otherwise, the better you're going to get at them. The point is that even if you're a dog chess player in a world of human chess players, you're a heck of a lot better off than all the dogs who are trying to play chess, which is to say that none of them, in fact, are playing chess. So I am dealing with some technical issues here, trying to connect my Wi-Fi to my phone, which may be difficult while I'm recording a podcast, but be that as it may, they're asking me for my password, which I'm going to enter, and we'll see if that does the trick. Sorry for the delay, folks. And I can't do it, so we'll have to make do. That's sort of the theme for the COVID-19 world, is making do. But I would suggest that those of us who work remotely are doing a whole lot better than making do. I mean, this is the wave of the future. I want to tell just a brief story about what's going on in the house where I'm staying right now. I have 3 sisters, one of whom is my twin. She is the one who's staying in the house now with her 2 children, one of whom is a junior at the University of Southern California, and this is going to become relevant in a moment. Another is a high school student at Roxbury Latin in Boston. One of my other nephews of another sister is staying there with his girlfriend. He's an adult, so is she. They are both employed. All of those people that I have just mentioned are working remotely from my mother's house, all sharing the Wi-Fi. My sister, who is a fundraiser for Brandeis University, my niece, whose classes at USC started yesterday, is taking classes and doing work from home. My nephew, the elder nephew, who has a job, is working, and his girlfriend is working. All of us are working, sitting with our laptops at home. Now, I would ask you, if we can do this, why on earth would we have to go into an office? I mean, we're on Nantucket. I have to tell you, despite the fact that we had a raging thunderstorm of about 6 hours today, or earlier, it has turned into an absolutely spectacular day here on the beach, and that's one of the features of living in New England. If any of you are thinking of relocating here, the phrase goes, if you don't like the weather in New England, just wait a little bit, because all of this happened. The same thing happened yesterday. We had a rotten day and we had a beautiful day, all on the same day yesterday, and today is turning out to be the same thing. We are in a virtual northeastern paradise here in Nantucket, Massachusetts, and we're all working. Now, we don't have to work 8 hours a day. Josie and I took a break so we could walk out to the beach. We're going to walk a little bit later. I've already done a fair amount of my freelance work, and I'm going to do a bit more especially after I post this for you all to listen. But ask yourself the question: if you can do the work from your home, it doesn't really matter where that home is. And in fact, what I not so semi-confidently predict, and this is really not a bold prediction on my point. This is my part. This is already happening, and it's going to continue to happen. That we are going to sort of redistribute. Bless you. We are going to sort of redistribute ourselves geographically in terms of where we want to live. I mean, I've mentioned that Josie and I are going to move. We spend time in Brazil when we and I've worked from there. The beauty, and I do mean beauty, of the type of work that we have chosen to engage in is its mobility, and so you don't need to sacrifice a sort of poor living situation for the sake of work. You can work from anywhere. All right, I've beaten that horse darn near to death. Now I want to tell you about a blog post which came across my desktop this morning. It's dated Sunday, August 16th, 2020, so it's a couple of days before I'm recording this right now. And it has to do with a concept of a journal editor publishing in his own journal. Let me tell you another quick story, and this time I promise the story really will be quick. While doing subcontract work for one of my clients, I needed to write a cover letter. It was a feature of the job that I was doing that, in addition to preparing the document, I needed to prepare a cover letter. Here's the twist. The cover letter I was writing was to the editor-in-chief of Journal X, and the author, the corresponding author of Journal X, was the author. So I was in the unusual and semi-uncomfortable position of having to write a cover letter on behalf of somebody else to himself. I contacted the client, not the editor, but the person I was subcontracting for, and said, "Are you sure that I have to write a cover letter on behalf of oneself to a journal?" And they said, good question, never came up, not sure what to do about that. So the point is that every once in a while, editors will submit articles to their own journals. Now, question, is that or is that not a problem? Is it a bad thing that someone should, in some sense, we might say, take advantage of their position as the editor-in-chief of a journal to submit an article, as if there is any chance that it would be rejected? I mean, clearly he's not going to read his own article and say, nope, you don't pass the first round of muster, and we're not going to send it out for peer review. So this is what Bishop blog has to say about prolific editors who publish in their own publications. Now I'm quoting from him. "I recently reported on a method for identifying authors who contribute an unusually high proportion of papers to a scientific journal. As I noted in my previous blog post, one cannot assume any wrongdoing just on the grounds of a high publication rate. But when there is a close link between the author in question and the journal's editor, then this raises concerns about preferential treatment and integrity of the peer review process. In running my analyses, I also found some cases where there wasn't just a close link between the most prolific author in a journal and the editor. They were one and the same person. At around that time I was unearthing these results, Elizabeth Bick, and we've talked about Elizabeth in some previous podcasts, tweeted to ask if anyone had examples of editors publishing in their own journals. I realized the analysis scripts I had developed for the, quote, percent by most prolific, close quote, analysis could be readily adapted to look at this question, and so I analyzed journals in the broad domain of psychology and behavioral science from 6 publishers, and he lists them. I focused on those responsible for editorial decisions, typically termed editor-in-chief or associate editor. Sometimes this was hard to judge. In general, I included deputy editors with editors-in-chief if they were very few in number. I ignored members of editorial boards. Before reporting the findings, I thought I should consult more widely about whether people think it is appropriate for an editor to publish in their own journal. Now, I'm going to stop there. Can you guess what the opinions were that when I got to this point, I said, you don't need to go and ask the people. I know what they're going to say. They're going to say it's a bad idea, it shouldn't happen, it's unethical, blah, blah, blah. And these are in fact the responses that he got. And I was surprised to find that I was not quite right in my initial assumption. The modal response was that it was okay for an editor-in-chief to publish in their own journal at a modest rate. And this was defined, I must say completely arbitrarily, as once a year or less. There was general disapproval of editors publishing prolifically in their own journals, even though I emphasized that I was referring to situations where the editorial process was kept independent of the author, as recommended by the COPE, and that is the Committee on Publication Ethics. Okay. Now, he goes on and he talks about the various pros and cons of this effort. Now, I want to inject some historical background in here. The peer review process has not been etched in stone for thousands of years. It is a relatively new phenomenon. It used to be the case that once one author had an article approved by whatever peer review process or non-peer review process there was, that was it. Once approved, every submission that was made to that journal was thereafter approved. And this was the case forgive me for dragging Al back into this, but this was the case for Einstein. After his first approval in the Analogie Physica, my German is non-existent at this point. He was able to publish at will, and in fact, he published numerous addenda and corrections in print on his general relativity articles. And so, the process was messy. All the stuff had to be printed. The point is that the way that things are done now are not the ways they've always been done. And I'll go a little bit further. And I'm not going to belabor the point too much, but I want to cut directly to what the subtext is that I want to talk about here. Imagine a world where there are no journals. You say, no journals? I mean, how can anything be published? How can anything be peer-reviewed? Folks, this is the internet. There is absolutely nothing preventing the publication of scientific endeavors, clinical studies, philosophical speculations, histories from being published on the internet. Now, if peer review is a sine qua non for you, if it's without which there is no possibility, in other words, if you're one of these anti-preprint server people, even in the age of COVID-19, I would suggest to you that self-publishing does not preclude peer review. In fact, it might be incumbent upon an author to seek peer reviewers, to say, look, read this, publish, tell me what you think. And if no one takes the author up, that might tell you something about perhaps what the value of this article is. Or, if there are no responses, perhaps it would sit there for years and people would look at it, and if they were to cite it, they might say, this was published, but there has been no peer review of it. And I think that this kind of scrutiny, this kind of vigilance, is not only important, I would say that it's essential with everything that you read, including from the New England Journal of Medicine, from Science, from Nature, who have retracted articles. And they've done this because mistakes are made and because the peer review process is flawed and sometimes it's outright fraudulent. I say, do away with it altogether. Who needs it? This is the internet age. There is prima facie evidence that it's not necessary, and I think that for that reason alone, it should be done away with. Okay, I want to get to very quickly. I forgot to mention what's going on with the website. It's called libertyfreelance.com, and it is a place where freelancers in the science, technology, and medicine space can showcase their skills. And I'm talking not just about medical writers and editors. I'm talking about statisticians. I'm talking about medical illustrators. I'm talking about anybody who is involved in a freelance basis in the process of publication in the STEM space. It's only $5 a month to put your profile up there, and you can take it down at any time and stop paying. I'm also in the process of populating the site with educational material, which you do have to pay for. No course is really expensive, and here the best part is that if you're a member and you have a profile up, that there are discounts for members. And if you like what you hear here, you will certainly like the content and the stuff that I would be emailing in the special email list for those who become members at libertyfreelance.com. That is libertyfreelance.com. And if you like this podcast and you enjoy the content and you want to hear more, please like it, give it a rave review on whatever platform you're listening to, and share it with a friend. We're gonna cut this a little bit short. We tend to go half an hour, but we're gonna cut this off at somewhere around 22 minutes because it's a beautiful day in Nantucket, and Josie and I are going to take a walk on the beach. So until next Tuesday, folks, be good to yourselves and to each other. And I will talk to you next time.